And that should make for a nice clickbaity thumbnail because I can't be bothered editing one in. Right, hang on, while my phone malfunctions, that's better. So we have demolished the shoddy old bodgy kitchen. Now this house was built in the 90s, and I seem to find from my experience that whenever a house was built in the 90s, it's just got some of the worst workmanship. I don't know why, but Sydney 1990s homes did just absolutely terrible, and this was no exception. Let me show you a few things. So over here, we removed the gyprock and put a new sheet in because they had the fridge goes there, so they had an open space, and I don't know, maybe they didn't like to see the wall, so they glued a piece of 3mm MDF in between to sort of look like a back. Painting the wall would have been a lot nicer. It had liquid nails all over the place. Also, the light switch, which you can see here, we've moved it. It was originally that abomination there, here in the side of the fridge panel, with the back box interfering with the fridge like stupid. It's now there, and the lights for the kitchen were also here. Now it's just the light for the exterior light, and the lights for the kitchen will be on the side of the pantry panel over there, not interfering with any other electricals. But so over here we have a 4x4 column which goes either side of the window, which I thought was pretty neat. Then we've got a jack stud and a stud, king stud, and another stud, and some 2x1 spaces and another stud, and some more 2x1 spaces and another stud, and some of those studs go right the way through and some of them stop here. Then we've got a beam coming in through there just floating around, but we don't actually have a timber structure out there, so I'm guessing maybe it's what supports that eave, but it's not connected to anything. But here's the thing. Now, I don't know if this is normal. I don't think it is. When we removed the gyprock, I could see light through the bricks, through the mortar. I don't think you're supposed to see that. I think mortar's meant to go edge to edge, and it wasn't on a few vent bricks, it was everywhere. So, a bit bodgy. Anyway, we've removed the Picasso of bits and pieces of sheets that were here. We, for some reason, have 10mm gyprock on this side and 13mm gyprock on that side. And they were diligent and made waterproof. There's the original. Made it waterproof on that side where there's no wet surfaces, and made this side not waterproof. But the way they had made these penetrations in the gyprock before is they just smashed all of these penetrations, just smashed them with a hammer. So this hole was actually about this big behind the cupboard. Now, I don't care if you're putting a cupboard in front of it. That's not good enough. Anyway, I've had all the walls resheeted. All the penetrations are very neat. We also had, this was the single, this one here was the original power input, and everything just spiderwebbed off it. So this power outlet, another power outlet, the power for the range hood, the power for the cooktop, and the oven, all spiderwebbed off this one circuit, which included an oven and a cooktop. So this might have had like 20 amps running through it at any point in time, and it wasn't rated for that. And the switches in the meter box are not RCD, so they'll actually allow that. They'll only trip if something goes wrong, not if they're overloaded with current. Anyway, that's been sorted. My gyprock is a good bloke. He's made sure that this is a 90 degree and that it's plumb in both directions. And another thing that he's done for us is this wall here was absolutely terrible. Now, if you remember, the pantry was hanging out over there and sticking in over there. And what I found was if I shot that point there right to the top, I was hanging out about 10mm, so a centimetre, the thickness of my finger that way. So I got him, you see here how it's kind of tapering in that direction. Well, that was already happening. So I said, how about you just get an angle for me, staple it all the way across, get it perfectly plumb, and then just transition it off back here so that we no longer have a lean, because what I was going to do was come back Like it was going to have to be 20 mil so that didn't look like too much of a taper. And even with 20 mil, it looked like too much of a taper. And then the cornice would have had to go around and up. So I said, mate, if you can level this up for me, I will have the cabinetry widened to take up the whole space. I can't just pull it off the wall because I've got a corner unit, so that would move this all off the wall that way. So he did it, we measured it, we gained 25 mil. So I've had that cupboard there marked on the wall and this big drawer cupboard down here, both widened by 23 millimeters. So we're taking up the whole space and we're coming right to here, right to the edge. And that's just going to look so much better. Also, when I removed the splashback off in one piece, let me show you that. Here's the old kitchen. That's going to find a new home. So there's the old splashback, tiled splashback. I removed it in one piece just by cutting the gyprock all around it and moving it away. And there's the old wall angle, which was plastic that I can completely crush with my hands. It was useless stuff. Anyway, let's go back inside. So when I removed that from there, the entire thing just came at me. It was not fastened. There was no fasteners in that much gyprock. Not one, nothing. It all just came off onto me. There's a lot more fasteners and glue now. That entire wall was sort of slapping. It was just loose. Again, they did the old smash it with a hammer trick on that penetration there. So you can see this is how big the hole was. So I've had that repaired, so our holes are a lot neater. And this is going to be a nice install now. There was a bunch of leaves and debris inside the cavity there, which I've gotten rid of. And we looked up and we saw sunlight coming through one of the roof tiles, and it was kind of sitting like that. It hadn't overlapped and locked in. So I fixed that for him. And of course, my customer, who's the nicest bloke that you'd ever meet, has been insulation scammed. The old Labor government, stimulus insulation project that they did in the early 2000s. That was so well handled. Insulation installers were dying, all sorts of things were happening. Typical, like what was happening all the time. So they've left all of his insulation in the roof, the old stuff, the 3-inch thick fiberglass, and they replaced it with 6-inch thick, I think, wool blend. But what these guys were doing, firstly they were way over ordering, which is what these guys have done. And they would get into the manhole and they'd literally just go and throw them everywhere. So the manholes, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. The manhole's over there, and it looks like an insulation gun has just shot insulation bats all over this area here. You can't, when we were running cables, we couldn't even find the rafters to step on them. It's just an absolute mess. So we're going to go in there, remove his old insulation, and just waiting for the camera to flip. Going to remove his old insulation and install new stuff. Not new stuff, the new stuff that's already there. Go and actually fit it everywhere. So yeah, that's how this is going so far.